As Call of Duty fans flock to the original games on Xbox, I've decided it would be best to revisit one of my favorite traditions of ranking and ripping each Call of Duty. But for your viewing pleasure, for this video, I feel it's best to do it in a top 10 style. Also in true Call of Duty fashion, I've used one of my longest videos, and probably the best I've ever written, to help write this. Some of it's literally copy and paste, some of it I've edited because, since going back, my thoughts and opinions have changed on these games. But for the most part, I think it holds up pretty well. And if you're upset at all by this list, maybe you can tell me your top 10 Call of Duties in the comment section below, and maybe we can do a little bit of a debate. Or not. It's up to you. But so without further ado, this is the top 10 Call of Duties of all time. Honorable mention, Modern Warfare 2 2022.
Serious?
I'm just kidding. This giant piece of donkey shit is never touching the top 10 Call of Duties in ever. I don't care what Call of Duty cycle exists, it's not happening. Number 10, Advanced Warfare. Probably the most vilified Call of Duty ever. It was the answer to a lot of fans' complaints about the franchise being the same every year. Nothing was new, lather, rinse, and repeat. So, Sledgehammer Games, with their first game, decided to swing for the fences, which basically landed somewhere in the middle of the field. Honestly, I respect the attempt at doing something new, which is kind of why it's here, but this game was not really that polished. The story was pretty solid, but I think the only takeaway people had wasn't Kevin Spacey, but the press F to pay respect. Listen, I get it, you wanted that big emotional moment where the player interacts with the coffin to have some sort of feelings about your in-game friend who died, but bro, I knew him for like a minute. That's basically like me going to the funeral of a person I walked by in the grocery store. Also, Troy Baker's in it.
Troy Baker was in it. He's in every game.
The ending might have been a bit of a cliffhanger, but the ending was pretty forgettable / laughable. The zombies was pretty meh, and it had a lot of big actors like John Malkovich, which apparently his character was like a clone, and I guess Patient Zero. And that immediately makes me think of that one SNL sketch where they just keep going, Malkovich, Malkovich, Malkovich. Whether you love it or hate it, there's no denying that this game changed the franchise for the worse. Obviously, the game impacts movement, maps, and gunplay, but this was also the first game to introduce supply drops. At first, this seemed like an innocent in-game system to keep players engaged. Instead, this evolved into blatant gambling. The game had a lot of weapon variants, which affected the way the gun played and how it looked cosmetically. But then the system eventually added DLC weapons locked behind a paywall of chance. You could unlock these supply drops for free, but you would have been miles behind someone who had paid for them, making Advanced Warfare pay to win. Regardless of how much you enjoyed the cosmetics, you can't deny this system was very bad for this game and future iterations. It seems like fans kind of enjoyed the new movement system at the time. Me personally, I was intrigued, but it could have been better. Supply drops really weighed down the experience, and I don't think I was the only one that just eventually got to the point where they wanted the next Call of Duty to come out. And just a bit of an addition, this game literally drove a man to the brink of insanity.
Let's use the bow. Bell is good! Bell is good! Bell is good! And stop! Bell is good! Bell is good! Bell is good!
I'll appreciate what Sledgehammer did with this game, but I wasn't really that huge of a fan. But game appreciates game, hence it's number 10. Number 9, Modern Warfare 2019.
Your savior is here!
I feel like that's what most people referred to Modern Warfare 2019 as. I didn't, but who really cares? Modern Warfare 2019 was Infinity Ward's last chance to make amends for what was seen as, at the time, 3 very subpar games. They did this by bringing some of the grit and realism back to the franchise, which was met with immediate praise from fans. The devs tried to take inspiration from earlier Call of Duties. Did it work? Well, I would say so, because the game was a massive hit for the franchise, bringing back old fans, getting new fans and Battlefield players, and even kept its core player base intact. New additions of the Battle Pass and Gunsmith were well-received hits. The story also felt kind of like an interactive movie, even though you could just do extremely dumb shit.
Grenade, look out!
The missions, the characters, the level, and sound design was perfect. Delivering amazing tactical stealth missions, or even hard-hitting moments, or moral dilemmas, rebooting the story while keeping the fan-favorite characters was a genius move for the franchise. Spec Ops was pretty much abandoned not long after the launch, and might as well have just not been in the game. It feels like it was meant to continue the story, but it didn't, and it kinda just sucked. The multiplayer, love it or hate it, succeeded where it needed to. The main flaws I have were the use of doors that created more camping, and its poor map design. Also, the game's engine, while beautiful, made it tough to see people in darker corners, which was a concern shared amongst the community. If you boil down the criticism, I guess it was just people saying it was too real, which is what I kind of thought the community wanted, but trial and error, I guess. Either way, the fact that the game didn't win, let alone even be nominated for Game of the Year, was pretty ludicrous. The word, not the rapper. Also, its change from specialist to operator was a pretty smart decision since they didn't affect the way the game's played, while also being a great storytelling tool. I'm putting this at 9 mainly because of its story and the multiplayer, which accomplished what it needed. It was a fine multiplayer. It wasn't like something that was blowing me away, but it was a lot better than some of the ones that we've had in the recent years. Number 8, Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3 is the Derek Carr of Call of Duty games. Not something you had really high expectations of, but you're surprised when it's better than you thought it really was. Modern Warfare 3 was the safe option for a studio that was still recovering from a mass exodus of the development team. It even had help from a fan favorite studio, Sledgehammer Games. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. The story was well done and put a nice bow in the Modern Warfare franchise, and it delivered one of the most gut-wrenching moments in the entire franchise. The multiplayer was pretty much Modern Warfare 2 but balanced, but met with some criticism after it was announced by Robert Bowling that we wouldn't have Last Stand as a perk, which was pretty much the most hated part of the Call of Duty franchise at the time.
Last Stand. Fuck you, Last Stand.
The players basically just got a giant egg on their face, and I can tell you, they were pissed. I must also appreciate its DLC structure because it was called Call of Duty Elite. It was a glorified season pass, but it gave you a few maps each month versus 4 maps every few months. Honestly, it was an amazing DLC structure because it kept the game more playable month to month. Also, Spec Ops existed in this game. To sum it up, the campaign was a blast, and the multiplayer, while a more balanced Modern Warfare 2, was pretty enjoyable to play. It was also the safest option possible for a studio entering a transition period. Number 7, Modern Warfare Remastered. If you didn't play the original Call of Duty 4, then you're the equivalent of a trust fund baby. You didn't earn this remaster, but you got it anyway. The game banks off nostalgia with the campaign being released early to help suck you in. The game launched and it felt like it did all the way back in the 360 PS3 era, but as Infinite Warfare became less profitable post-launch, Modern Warfare Remastered became littered with micro DLC, supply drops, weapons, skins, you name it. Modern Warfare Remastered had it. It did have the usual COD point system, but also another in-game currency similar to Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, so you could unlock supply drops or weapons at any time. But this still led to a lot of imbalance. I get it, it made the experience something new, and without this, I imagine Call of Duty dies right there and then. So micro DLC was a must, but the fact that they released the variety map pack under a remaster and charged the same amount as they did when it first came out was pretty criminal, and it just showed how desperate things were getting for the franchise. I did enjoy the in-game events though. I thought it kept things fresh and new, and they also released a couple new maps here and there, just more reskinned maps like Winter Crash and Overgrown got a different kind of look, because it helped keep me around the Call of Duty franchise, especially with that disastrous launch of Infinite Warfare. But it also was a semi-new experience, plus the game just looked great. So you can interchange this with Call of Duty 4 if you want, but I figured the game with more was a better choice, as it's
Same, but different. But still same.
Number 6, Warzone. I'm gonna keep this pretty brief because I just did a whole 7-minute video of this the other day, so, go watch that if you want to know my opinion on Warzone. OG Warzone was one of the most peak experiences. Was it due to the fact that everyone was locked inside their homes and couldn't go anywhere else? Probably, yeah. But Warzone took the Battle Royale genre by storm, offering players with a wonderful map and the ability to utilize custom classes, which led to some of the greatest memories in video game history. Not to mention, it provided hours of content in order to figure out what the newest meta was. I mean, keeping up with the metas that were ruining the game was like keeping up with which running back the Patriots are going to work out this week. Yes, it led to issues of the developers basing an entire game's design around the concept of Warzone, but no one can deny what Warzone did for the community and the industry was good for the time. Number 5, Black Ops. Have you ever wondered what a balanced Call of Duty looks like? Black Ops 1 is probably one of the most balanced Call of Duty games ever created. It catered to pretty much every play style. You would have a couple OP weapons, which were balanced not long after. Every gun was usable, no matter how funny it looked compared to the other ones, and every map in this game just slapped. DLC or not, they were all well thought out, memorable, and I used to love the pre-DLC launch because the developers released these videos talking about the game and the maps that were coming, and the most iconic was
On the monorail, it's a great advantage point.
this map called Zoo came out with the Escalation map pack, and some bozo in the trailer made it clear that the monorail was one of the most important parts of the entire map. It wasn't, by the way, because if you got up there, you were getting shot right off. But nonetheless, this map and every other map in the game was still very iconic. The game was set during the Vietnam and Cold War era and featured... Okay, listen, I've said this in a few different videos, but I feel like this game had some of the most memorable characters ever. For instance, you had fan favorite Woods, the no-nonsense sergeant, Mason, who was always worried about the numbers, Reznov was back, and Hudson... Well, let's just play another game of the Name That Voice Actor. What actor did the voice of Bowman? It's Ice Cube from the rap group...
Hey,
The story was amazing and took the idea of the sleeper cell agents in numbers, which were apparently a real thing, I'm not a history teacher, and made it into an entire campaign. The multiplayer was extremely fun, and the zombies, holy crap, I haven't even really touched on the zombies, but this is probably one of the best zombies modes we've ever had. I mean, you had maps like Kino, Shangri-La, Ascension, and then you had Moon. I mean, it had some of the best Easter eggs. The zombies in this game, absolute peak. Number 4, Call of Duty World War II. Sledgehammer was back, baby, and back to please the community again. World War II was built off the feedback of the fans wanting a more boots-on-the-ground experience. I recall people being pretty intrigued with the option of a World War II experience, but were more happy it was boots on the ground. Honestly, most people probably wanted a modern combat, but whatever. The story was pretty amazing at the start with its Omaha Beach mission, but then fell flat as the game went on. Because by the time the game tries to address its hard-hitting moments like the Holocaust, too much nonsense has happened to that point that it didn't have the impact that it should have. Also, Josh Duhamel joined the actors who played Call of Duty characters as a marketing ploy club. His whole character development is just him being a dick the whole time until he's not. The zombies was pretty good, but mostly meh. While the multiplayer, I gotta say, it doesn't get the credit it deserves. The class system wasn't very well received by the fans, but I enjoyed it and honestly thought it was a good replacement for specialists in the pick 10-13 system. The maps and game's pacing seemed exactly like what the players wanted. Weapon balance was pretty good, and the DLC maps were great, with some in-game events making them even more fun. Part of the problem I think with this game was that fans wanted something a little bit more serious, and the last few games hadn't been that serious, especially this one. At least I think. Eventually the class system was stripped down and reworked and met with some semi-positive feedback. I don't know, I still enjoyed it. The supply drop system was back, but honestly this is probably the best supply drop system we had had the entire time. You had tons of options to unlock new weapons, whether that be supply drops, the quartermaster, or contracts. The in-game currency, not COD points, was great. Just by playing, you got currency to build up to a weapon or a skin that you wanted. And I thought this was just a healthy middle because it seemed like everyone won in the situation. The game also introduced a headquarters that was basically ripped from Destiny. It was just a great way to screw around with friends, laugh at people buying supply drops, or 1v1 someone before jumping into a match. This was also an addition that was met with a lot of positive feedback and has yet to come back despite players and fans begging for it to come back. Another cool addition was the game mode War, which was basically you and your team fighting back waves and waves of enemy players from capturing or destroying an objective. It was extremely fun and your KD didn't really matter. Me and a buddy of mine would also challenge each other each match that we got into to see who got the most kills. Usually it was me, naturally. Plus this was just an amazing way to level up weapons. Did I mention you could fight on Omaha Beach? It hasn't been back since, probably due to the popularity, but it has been rumored that this will be a part of Modern Warfare 3, so there's a bit of hope. This game was definitely built off community feedback. The story, regardless of how ridiculous it was, and how it took away from the important moments, it was pretty fun. The zombies was solid, but again, meh. But the multiplayer was great, and I don't think it was appreciated enough. Number 3, Black Ops 3. Probably one of the most overlooked Call of Duty games ever. It took Advanced Warfare's advanced movement system, but made it better. The story was pretty confusing and featured that one guy from that show my grandmother loves. I only kind of remember things about a frozen forest and that one guy Hendrix who just cursed the whole time and ate like a candy bar and threw it away.
What is the frozen forest?
Oh man, I can't even begin to tell you how good this tastes. After those nasty MREs we've been living on, this tastes like heaven.
The zombies in this game is definitely the best it's ever been, but I think a lot of that has to do with the mods on PC. You can make custom maps and stuff like that. It's pretty wild. If you have never had a chance, I definitely recommend going to play it. But the multiplayer, oh my god, the multiplayer. If you ever wanted an extremely polished multiplayer, play Black Ops 3. The gunplay was great with every gun feeling pretty unique, and the addition of auto bursts, in my opinion, was just kind of a nice little neat addition to the game. Another great addition was Specialists. I feel like Specialist in Black Ops 3 is Specialist at its best. It's clear that everything was pretty well thought out, even though the community was split between pros using Ruin, noobs using Nomad, and content creators using Firebreak. Obviously, supply drops are back, mostly cosmetic, with guns being thrown in here and there, but again, it was still the same old locked behind a paywall system. And I'm not sure if that's why people really ranked this game so low, because of just the bad attention the game got, mainly because of its supply drop system being so bad. And I recall there being some sort of revolution type thing led by White Boy 7th Street, I think, but I don't know. He came up on my feet a lot during that time, and I think it was a whole thing about don't play the game and don't give them money, just so that way we could protest the supply drops and never have them again. But I'm going to overlook it because honestly Black Ops 3 was an amazing title and honestly doesn't get the credit it deserves. Number 2, Modern Warfare 2 2009. Objectively one of the greatest Call of Duty experiences ever. The story was S tier, it turned grown men into weeping babies. An S tier multiplayer experience which I can't say was at all balanced because at the time, half the development team left to go on and create Respawn Entertainment, the same company that created games like Titanfall, Apex Legends, in Jedi Fallen Order, but this basically led to the player base seeing an update as frequently as a Mets fan sees a playoff game. Because pretty much everything you bitch about now, such as cheaters, weapon imbalance, lack of content, etc., is literally Modern Warfare 2, except there was pretty much no development team to fix anything. But through the Commando Pro, One Man Army Pro, and Danger Close Pro was this thing called fun. You could do the dumbest shit, and since Activision was more focused on getting Infinity Ward a team, they didn't fix anything. And being honest, I think Activision looked at this as a wash, but it was still the most popular game in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And I've said this before, but my favorite part of this game was its ad campaigns. Like, they were just getting taken down left, right, and center, because one ad campaign for what I believe was the stimulus map pack involved an old man telling people that everyone was doing it.
Everyone is doing it. Guys are doing it with girls. Some get together in groups and do it. Some go online and do it with complete strangers. Some like deeper penetration when they do it. Some people like to do it hardcore.
And I've said this before, but there was one more ad that ran that pretty much got pulled pretty quick, but if it were done today, my god, the Call of Duty franchise wouldn't even exist anymore. It would be canceled so fast. The ad campaign featured professional baseball player and husband to Survivor Amazon player Heidi. Yes, I got one in there. Cole Hamels. The campaign was fight against grenade spam. Again, that's fight against grenade spam. I kind of wonder why that got pulled. Also, Spec Ops was in the game, so yeah. The game was full of fun, full of cheese, and full of shit, but this game will always be talked about as being one of the best in the entire franchise. Again, it might be because of the dumb stuff that you could get away with in the game, but that's what made this game really that successful, though it will never succeed by today's standards. Number 1, Black Ops 2. In the past, I've spoken very negatively about this game. Multiplayer is not good. It has a more competitive focus. The Pick 10 system felt more like a penalty for the non-competitive types. But having gone back to replay it in 2023, Black Ops 2 is by far the best Call of Duty title available. It has everything from proper weapon balance to fun competitive and non-competitive gameplay to Frank fucking Woods, baby. Black Ops 2 is just as complete of a Call of Duty as it gets. You get one of the best zombies experiences in the entire franchise. I know I've been saying that pretty much the whole video. A campaign that offers a wide variety of outcomes based off your decisions. Again, a well-balanced multiplayer and a post-credits that is basically a rock concert filled with the main characters in the game.
I'm ready to roll, baby! What the fuck? Oh, that shit? Nah, I'm just fucking lazy.
And yes, in 2023, Black Ops 2 has its issues, but the core game is still a blast to play, and no hacker can ruin that for me, damn it. Side note, I've made another request to Minnesota Burns to help with the cheating problem, but he's probably just too busy hunting MILFs. Shout out to Zach Wilson's mom. Sup, Lisa? One last bit of praise of the campaign that I feel like it took turns I really didn't expect, which I feel like is brilliant. Like having players allegedly drop Menendez, only for it to be revealed that it was Mason, really broke me as a player. Literally, I was a child in hysterics when this actually happened. Even the possibility of the Mayan calendar predicting the end of the world couldn't cause me to break down this badly. Also, spoilers. But I do kind of regret some of the things I said about Black Ops 2 because I think my initial memory of the game was just tainted as a child. Maybe I just didn't understand what a good Call of Duty really was until now, but it's all perspective in the end, I guess. Or maybe my jimmies were just a bit rustled because of the death threats David Vonderhaar received for the DSR being nerfed. I don't know. But again, after going back in 2023 and watching some of the sick promotional material that said I had a soldier inside of me, really changed my perspective on this entire game and moved this to the #1 spot. Eat Arby's if you're mad.